Kendell Kendrick. I'm a customer service specialist for Fiber Vision. Been with the company since day one, about 22 years ago. The Jones family in whole started Jones Companies, period. And I don't even know how many years ago, but Brett's dad, Mr. Lloyd Jones, was the founder of it. And Mr. Lloyd was a man of all trades. He could do anything. He could get involved in anything. He was just an old school, hands-on, self-educated person. He started out with his company, sawmilling, and his big thing was he'd find old sawmills that people had abandoned, quit using, hadn't been caught on fire. He'd dig those things out and rebuild them and sell them. He was based at Little Improved, Mississippi. That's south of Columbia.
Okay.
It's its own entity. You go out toward Morristown and you all of a sudden come up on a big area where there's a lot of buildings that they built from nothing. That's where it started. And of course, Brett being the son just grew into it like Jonathan has. I can remember Brett telling me about a time when him and Mr. Lloyd actually, when they brought Interstate 20 through Jackson, Mississippi, him and Mr. Lloyd got a crew of men, went up and they moved houses for several months. Yeah.
Wow.
Made a pretty good little living off of that for a while. They'd rent hotel rooms. And Brett said they'd get bologna and light bread and made it pretty good. But anyway, and it just kind of grew from there. Like I said before, the lumber company, sawmilling was their big thing, and then they branched out into pallets and mats, which we know where the mat business went to. But anyway, they just kind of grew it from there. They outgrew the current place they had, of course, we know that, and they moved out several different branches elsewhere with their timber cutting for mats and that sort of thing. Which, you know, it would be hard to explain to you what all Brett Jones could do and would do. He was into everything. He even had cattle for a while, you know, and that didn't work out good, so he got out of that. But anyway, I have known Brett and Lisa since they were dating, actually. And of course, Brett was into horses and I was into horses, and he and I kept in touch kind of with that, you know, over the years. And a friend of mine who worked for Brett at the time, Clint Harvey, ran into me one day at a gas station, and we were talking about the Joneses, and he said, well, you know, there may be an opportunity there if you think you might be interested in it. So Brett had mentioned to him that he was looking at starting a new business. It was probably going to be something in recycling, because he had talked to one of the mill representatives that told him that was kind of a common thing, you know, something to get into. So I said, well, yeah, I'd like to talk to him about it. So anyway, I called Brett and we set up a meeting, and he told me what he had on his mind. Brett usually makes most of his deals on a dozer or a tailgate of a truck or something. He was on a dozer at that time. We started getting our plans together, rocked on a couple of weeks. I called him. He said, I tell you what, meet me out at the old broom packing house. And that's where Yakmat is now. But so we go out there. It's a big old tin building, gravel parking lot, clay and gravel, wide open. It did have a closed-in area that we thought we might could make an office out of later, which we did. And of course, the building has a history all its own, because it's been revamped and revamped and revamped, as you well know. And it is what it is now, which is a very impressive office building. But anyway, we knocked cobwebs out and looked around, had to move some junk to get in, looked around, and Brett said, it's all to do. So he goes down to, I believe it was Citizens Bank that had the building, and captured it. He ordered us a marathon baler, which we still use, by the way, up on the hill here. He bought us 2 forklifts, I believe, and 1 skid steer with a bucket on it. And he said, you need to learn how to use that. So I did. Never been on one in my life. Did I know anything about recycling? Nada. I thought it was a joke, really. It was trash.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of it.
Yep.
And then as I got into the business and started realizing every store you went to had cardboard bales behind it. So yeah, it's kind of shed a new light on it. And Brett got me one of the old trucks that the loggers used down there, and had kind of set it aside. I used it to go out and acquire business. And he and I both decided it'd probably be the best thing to look for loose cardboard to start off with. So we did, and that was a chore in itself, convincing people that they needed to even do that, let alone let you set a basket there for them to tote it out there to it, you know?
Right.
So we finally convinced enough to do that till we don't need to start setting bins, okay? So we got Jeremy Jones, Brett's oldest son. He came up and he was my driver for a while as far as the roll-off to pick up bins. He did that a while, and then we grew to the point that we brought on Bruce McGee, one of the employees from down there. He was with Brett forever till he died. But anyway, brought him up there, and we started baling. We got some bales going, and then about summertime, which we started about March, I think, somewhere there about summertime, Jonathan comes home, and I have the privilege of working Jonathan Jones. He was one of my right hands. He'd bail. Of course, Jonathan's like his daddy. He can operate any kind of equipment. But I guess I did pretty good with him, because we know where he is now, huh?
That's right.
Runs companies. But anyway, that was an experience. Jonathan, as you know, is a great person, just like his mom and dad, and his dad, his granddaddy before. They're good people. They love people. They care about the employees. I can tell you from past history, I've known them to continue people's paychecks that were terminally ill for a period of time, never asked any questions. I can remember when we had the really bad economy crash a while back. I can't remember what year it was, but when that happened, Brett and Lisa had to lay some people off, and Miss Lisa would just cry and cry. It just broke her heart. But that's the compassion they have for their people. And they still do today. Jonathan still does today. You may not think he's looking at you, but he is. I can remember times that Brett would tell him when he was still in college, he'd say, "Son, don't ever take your eye off the ball." And by that he meant, don't forget where you come from. And Jonathan knew that. But getting back to our fiber division, we started off as Jones Brothers Corrugated. And that's where we started off. That was our name. And then we graduated to Fiber Division Paper Stock, and then we became FB Recycling. That's the end of our branding right now. I don't know where to go from here. That's where we're at now with it. Then we were in process of starting up in a building that wasn't really good for anything but packing meat slaughterhouse, what it was. But we got our employees in place. We got started baling. Now we got to do something with the paper. You know, just because you have a product doesn't mean there's a market for it. Well, we didn't have a market for it. We struggled to make contacts for meals. Brett had contacts for meals because of the ship business. We finally got our foot in the door with Gaylord in Bogalusa. It then became Temple Inland. It's now International Paper. But we got our foot in the door with them. We were allowed 3 loads a month. That was big. We kept baling and we stacked paper, and we'd sell what we could. So I finally came across a couple of bale accounts, mostly in the Bogalusa area, matter of fact. So we had to borrow a driver and a truck from Jones Transportation, Jones Trucking then, not Jones Transportation, Jones Brothers Trucking. We borrowed one of their drivers and one of their trucks, and I went out with him and helped him load the truck and take it to Bogalusa, the mill in Bogalusa. So every time we had a load, we had to do that, and it worked good because we only had about 3 loads a month at that time. And you well know what it's grown to now.
Right.
But anyway, at that point, it was time for Jonathan to go back to school, so we moved him back to school. Bruce McGee was working with me, and Brett said, you know, I'm paying Bruce pretty good bit an hour to work up there. We're gonna have to do something different with him. I'm moving back. So he did, and replaced him with a gentleman named Red Slocum, who stayed with us till he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, about time for him to retire anyway. and he had to leave us, but he was the backbone of our bin business. Haul the bins back and forth. Great person, good Christian person. We still see him from time to time. But anyway, he stayed with us for a great long time. During that time, Jeremy went back to Sandy Hook to his regular duties down there, a little improved, and we moved in another person to help him out, and I can't remember his name, darling, I'm sorry. But anyway, he worked with us. He wasn't with us long, but Red was mostly the man that did all the hauling, okay? If we got in a bind, of course, we could always call Bruce and he'd come help us. And then we started doing a little organizing in the front and made us an office. I had a round table with dust that thick. So that's the best we could do then, so we did.
It worked.
Brett said, look, he gave me a $100 bill. He said, go get us some office stuff. And so I run downtown and I pick up ad machines and pens and papers and that sort of thing. The next day, we were installing the baler and getting ready to get started. Brett said, you got the change out of that $100? And I did. I had a bunch of changes. So that'll give you an idea about what we started with in the office. No computers. I did all the accounting and composition books. I wrote down every time we brought in a loose load, how much it weighed. Anytime that we did buy bales, I wrote that down. You know, we recorded everything on paper, pen and paper, even the profit, what it cost us to do it, how much we made off of it. Anyway, we kept going along about there, knocking along. We were baling up bales, storing them up. We ended up hiring Mr. Travis Pittman, who stayed with us till he retired. And Travis still lives down in the little improved area down there. But anyway, great person, very country. Gene and I have lots of Travis stories, so if you want to hear some, ask Gene. He's got a bunch of them too. He kept us in stitches, but he's a hard worker. His first big account was Color Box, Peleahatchie, Mississippi. Color Box is a folding carton business, makes cereal boxes and so on for beer cartons, that sort of thing. So they had a product that was known as DOK, which at that time was not much demand for it. So it usually went in regular cardboard. But it was like 2 to 4 loads a week, van loads. So all of a sudden we had to get in the trucking business, see? We got vans, we got them on location. We ended up hiring one of the Jones Brothers trucking boys for our driver, Terry McKenzie, and then David Jones came along, who David is still with us. So anyway, they started our actual hauling business. Then we ended up hiring a flatbed guy as our bale route continued to grow. In my spare time, when I wasn't baling paper or trying to load trucks or keeping books, I'd still out hunting accounts. So, but anyway, we got Travis on, and Travis started adding to that, and I had more time to stay in the office than the plant. We accumulated enough at that point that we had about 5,000 tons of paper on hand. So lo and behold, a person that we knew came by and he said, "No, I might can help you move that." So he did, and I'm not going to name the broker that moved it because he's our competition. Brett probably wouldn't want me to mention him. But anyway, he rounded up a deal for us out in Oklahoma, Valley, Oklahoma. Well, we used Jones Brothers trucks to haul the product out there, and then they hauled lumber back to Purvis, Mississippi. So we made money on both ends. We paid off a pretty good bit of our debt right there because it was one big lump deal, you see. So from that point, we just kept moving along in the same direction, adding accounts. We added a few salesmen, you know. Our only competitor locally was Pancho James. Yep. Anyway, he ended up selling his business to a waste company, and then we had the opportunity to buy it from them, which we did. Before that, I left the part out that and I'll leave stuff out, I'm sure, but anyway, we moved from Columbia out to Highway 59 with the warehouse we got out there. Okay, then when we acquired Summerall, we came here. And then, of course, from here to Hattiesburg, 2 different locations over there. But
did you ever think FE Recycling would have the footprint that it does today?
absolutely not. No, I didn't. And this is part I left out, okay? After we were successful with Travis, we brought in another person to kind of manage Travis, okay? Then came Gene Smith. And Gene knew just about as much about recycling as I did. He was a football coach, okay? So he, between me and him and Travis, he learned the business. He learned it very quickly. And he became the backbone of FE Recycling, and he carried it a lot further than I probably ever could have, honestly. Gene had a lot of drive. He's got a wife that's got a lot of drive, as you well know. And Gene was very inquisitive about everything. He learned every part of the business he could, and he learned it very quickly. And he has been a great support person for Fiber Vision, FE Recycling. He carried us, as I said, to another plane, and he's still carrying us to a higher plane. He's got some very good things going on right now that if they come through, it'll make us even bigger and with even a bigger footprint. But we all have our place and we all have our calling. And Gene's calling was different from mine, and he has done a great job with it. He sure has. My primary deal is handling customer complaints or customer problems. I've had a good bit of our clientele that has my cell phone, and they call me when they have a real problem. Now, if they want to pick up something like that, they know where to get the pickup, okay? But if they have a real problem, they call me. On the other hand, if we have a customer that emails in and say, hey, look guys, I'm going with some other company and I'll no longer, then I get involved in that. And about 80% of the time, I usually have a personal relationship with those people, and a lot of times I'm able to save the account just on that account. I'm nothing special. We've just been fortunate to build some strong relationship over the years. We started the company based on honesty and integrity and loyalty. We feel like if we had a mill representative that kind of stretched a little bit and helped us out, we owe that rascal. So we try to remain loyal to those people. And that's built some very good relationships with us as far as the mills and that sort of thing. Nothing more than just treating people like you want to be treated. That's it. There's a couple of things that I really like about working here, I like about the business. One is recycling. When you learn it, you never stop learning it. Recycling has redefined itself probably 15 times since I've been in the business. About the time you think you got the answers, they change the questions on it. So it keeps you on your toes. It keeps us thinking. It keeps us looking forward. It keeps us looking backward. As Gene will tell you, if you look away just a little while, you'll be underwater. You'll be losing money. So it keeps you going, and I like that. It's challenging. Keeps you using your mind. The other thing that I would mention about it is the family atmosphere about it. Everybody's like family. Everybody knows each other. I personally know the people that started it and owns it, and I know how they feel about the business even today. And Jonathan Jones is carrying on that legacy right on. That's the kind of company we're with. That's the kind of company Fiber Vision is, and that's why I keep going. I like it. I love it. I'd hate to wake up in the morning and not have it. Fiber Vision has a lot of history. Fiber Vision has had a lot of great support from a lot of great people, and it still does. I have been very blessed and thankful to be a part of it, and so glad I'm still a part of it. We're only as good as the people that we have on our team, and we are blessed to have a great team.